The buzz around New England is starting to heat up as the 2026 draft gets closer. And if there's one thing Patriots fans know, it's that this front office never stands still. There's a clear sense that something big could happen, especially when you look at the sheer volume of picks this team is holding. It's not just about having selections, it's about flexibility, about creating opportunities to move around the board and target exactly who fits the identity this team is trying to rebuild. Right now, the Patriots are sitting on a stack of picks that gives them serious leverage. Late in the first round, early in the second, and then a steady flow all the way through day 3. But let's be real for a second. There is no way this team walks away from draft weekend using every single one of those selections. History tells us otherwise. This is an organization that thrives on movement, on reading the board and striking when the moment is right. Packaging picks, climbing a few spots, or even jumping an entire round is very much on the table. Still, if we imagine things playing out without trades, just to get a feel for how the roster could shape up, the direction becomes pretty clear almost immediately. With that late first-round pick, the biggest need jumps right off the screen, and that is the edge position. There's no dancing around it. Even after adding pieces to the defensive front, there's still a missing element when it comes to consistently disrupting quarterbacks and setting the tone on the outside. That's where a player like TJ Parker starts to make a lot of sense. Coming out of Clemson, he brings a physical profile that already fits what this defense is trying to build. At 6'3" and around 265 pounds, he has the frame, but more importantly, he has the motor and the versatility that coaches love. You're not just getting a guy who lines up in one spot and does one thing. You're getting someone who can shift inside, attack from different angles, and keep offensive lines guessing snap after snap. What really stands out when you look at his trajectory is how dominant he was during his breakout season. There was a stretch where he looked nearly unstoppable, piling up tackles behind the line, forcing fumbles, and constantly living in the backfield. Even though his most recent season didn't match that same level of production in terms of sacks, the pressure numbers were still there, and that tells a deeper story. He was still affecting plays, still collapsing pockets, even if the final stat line didn't always reflect it. And context matters here. Clemson as a whole didn't have the same edge it once did, and that can impact how a player's performance is perceived. But when you isolate the traits, the explosiveness off the snap, the power in his hands, and the ability to disengage from blockers, it's clear there is something to work with. In the right system, especially one that emphasizes aggression and flexibility along the defensive front, his game could take another leap. Another key factor is how he fits against the run. This is something that can't be overlooked, especially for a team that has struggled at times to set the edge consistently. It's one thing to get after the quarterback, but if you can't hold your ground on early downs, you become a liability. Parker shows flashes of being able to do both, using his strength to control the line while still having the quickness to close gaps and make plays in space. When you compare that to what the Patriots currently have, you start to see why this pick feels almost necessary. There are players who can generate pressure, sure, but there hasn't been that complete presence, someone who can impact every phase of the game. Adding a player like this not only boosts the pass rush, it adds a layer of physicality that can change how opposing offenses approach the game plan. And let's not forget, this draft class is loaded with talent at the edge position. That actually makes the decision even more interesting because there are multiple directions the team could go. Different styles, different skill sets, all capable of making an impact. But the idea remains the same. If you're sitting there at the end of the first round and you have a chance to grab a high-upside pass rusher who fits your scheme, it becomes very hard to pass on that opportunity. So as things stand, going edge with that first pick doesn't just feel like an option, it feels like the foundation of the entire draft strategy. It sets the tone, it addresses a major need, and it gives the defense a potential building block moving forward. From there, everything else starts to fall into place, depending on how the board unfolds and which players begin to slide into range. As the draft rolls into the second round, the focus starts to shift, and this is where things get really interesting for New England. After addressing the defensive front early, the attention now turns to giving the offense a serious boost, and more specifically, adding a weapon that can stretch the field and change how defenses line up. There's been a clear need for a true vertical threat, someone who can open things up and create explosive plays, and this is the perfect range to find that kind of talent. A name that stands out in this spot is Chris Brazzell II, a wide receiver who brings a completely different dimension to the offense. At 6'5" and around 200 pounds, his size alone makes him a matchup problem, but it's not just about height. What separates him is the way he uses that frame down the field, tracking deep passes and turning them into big gains. Over the course of his most recent season, he showed steady growth, becoming a reliable target and proving he could handle a larger role against strong competition. What really jumps off the page is his ability to attack defenses vertically. When the ball is thrown beyond 20 yards, he becomes a serious threat, consistently creating separation and finishing plays without mistakes. The combination of length, stride, and timing allows him to win those one-on-one battles. And that's exactly the kind of receiver that pairs well with a quarterback who isn't afraid to take shots downfield. It's about chemistry, about building a connection that forces defenses to respect every inch of the field. And that's where the fit becomes even more exciting. When you think about a quarterback who excels at pushing the ball deep, adding a receiver who thrives in those situations feels like a natural move. It's not just about statistics. It's about how those skill sets complement each other. A strong arm paired with a receiver who can track and finish deep routes can completely transform an offense that has struggled to generate explosive plays. Moving into the third round, the strategy continues to build around balance. And this is where the Patriots could look to reinforce the tight end position. Depth has become a real concern, and while there are veterans in place, the long-term outlook is far from secure. Bringing in a player like Max Clare offers both immediate support and future potential. He's the kind of athlete who can contribute in multiple ways, not just as a pass catcher, but also as a blocker who can hold his own at the line of scrimmage. His development path is particularly intriguing because it feels like he hasn't reached his ceiling yet. There are flashes in his route running, moments where his movement looks smooth and controlled, suggesting there's more to unlock with the right coaching. At the same time, his willingness to engage in the blocking game adds value that doesn't always show up on the stat sheet, but is crucial for a balanced offense. Having someone who can stay on the field in different situations gives the coaching staff more flexibility in how they design plays. By the time the fourth round comes around, the attention shifts back to the defensive side, specifically the linebacker position. This is another area where depth is thin, and finding someone who can step in and contribute across multiple roles becomes a priority. A player like Jaishan Baram fits that mold as a versatile defender who brings speed and athleticism to the middle of the field. Even if he's not the prototypical build at the position, his movement skills allow him to cover ground quickly and make plays sideline to sideline. There's an energy to his game that stands out. Whether it's closing in on ball carriers or applying pressure in certain packages, he shows a level of explosiveness that can inject life into the defense. And while there may be areas that need refinement, particularly in coverage responsibilities, the raw tools are there. In a system that values adaptability, having a linebacker who can line up in different spots and still be effective adds another layer to the defensive scheme. Later in that same round, the Patriots could turn their attention to the offensive line, looking for a developmental tackle who can provide depth now and potentially grow into a larger role down the road. This is where someone like Drew Shelton becomes an interesting option. He may not be a finished product, but the traits are there to build on. His quickness off the snap and ability to get into position give him a foundation that coaches can work with over time. Developing offensive linemen is a long-term investment, and this feels like the kind of move that reflects patience and planning. With experienced players already in place, there's no immediate pressure for him to start, which creates the ideal environment for growth. Learning behind veterans, adjusting to the speed of the professional game, and refining technique are all part of that process. If everything clicks, this could turn into a valuable piece for the future without the risk that comes with earlier selections. As the draft continues to unfold, you can see a clear pattern forming. Each pick is about addressing a need while also thinking ahead, building not just for the upcoming season, but for the years to come. It's a balance between immediate impact and long-term development, and so far, every move reflects a team that understands where it needs to improve and how to get there through smart, calculated decisions. As the team moves into the later rounds, the strategy becomes even more about value and depth, and this is where smart scouting can really separate a good draft from a great one. In the fifth round, Adding a safety like Bud Clark starts to make a lot of sense when you look at the current structure of the secondary. The starters may be solid, but behind them, there are real question marks, and that's where a player like Clark can quietly become an important piece. He's not coming in with the expectation of starting right away, but his instincts in coverage and ability to make plays on the ball give him a chance to carve out a role. When you dive into his production, you start to see a defender who understands positioning and timing. Interceptions, pass breakups, and consistent tackling numbers show that he's always around the action. More importantly, he doesn't shy away from opportunities. He reads quarterbacks well, reacts quickly, and puts himself in positions to impact the game. For a team that needs reliable depth in the secondary, especially in a league that leans heavily on the passing game, this kind of addition could pay off in a big way over time. Then you get into the 6th round, and this is where things start to get really intriguing, because now you're looking for players who can bring a specific trait to the table. One name that stands out here is Jaishan Baram, a receiver with game-breaking speed who can instantly change field position. Even if he's not projected to be a top option in the offense, his value as a return specialist and situational deep threat makes him incredibly appealing. Speed like that is hard to teach, and when you have it, you find ways to use it. There's also something to be said about players who continue to evolve throughout their college careers. Brown showed that kind of progression, adapting to different situations and still finding ways to produce. That resilience and willingness to grow can translate well at the next level, especially in a system that rewards effort and versatility. Giving the offense another layer, even if it's in a rotational role, can open up possibilities that weren't there before. On the defensive side of the ball, taking a chance on a player like Nick Barrett along the interior line adds another developmental piece to a group that already has some talent but can always use more depth. The idea here isn't immediate impact. It's about finding someone who can be molded over time. His flashes of production, especially in his most recent season, suggest that there's untapped potential waiting to be developed. With the right coaching and time to adjust, he could become a solid contributor in the rotation. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to Patriots Hub and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest updates on our New England Patriots. And don't be shy, share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. A quiet storm is brewing around the New England Patriots, and at the center of it stands Mike VRABEL, a figure whose recent remarks have ignited intense speculation across the league. In what many insiders are calling a rare and calculated break from the franchise's traditional rhetoric, VRABEL reportedly dismissed the weight of history with a blunt assertion. Tradition alone does not win games. The comment, though brief, has echoed loudly through the corridors of a team long defined by the shadow of Bill Belichick. For decades, the Patriots built their identity on discipline, legacy, and an almost mythological adherence to the Patriot way. VRABEL's words now hint at a philosophical shift, one that could signal a departure from the principles that once made the franchise untouchable. Sources close to the locker room suggest the statement was not accidental. There is a growing belief that VRABEL is subtly challenging the internal culture, pushing for modernization in an organization often accused of clinging too tightly to its past successes. While no direct criticism of Belichick was made, the implication was clear enough to spark debate among players, staff, and fans alike. Around the NFL, reactions have been mixed. Some executives view the remark as a necessary evolution, arguing that the league has changed too rapidly for nostalgia to remain a competitive strategy. Others see it as a risky move, potentially destabilizing a franchise still trying to redefine itself after years of dominance followed by uncertainty. Within the Patriots fan base, the comment has only deepened the intrigue. Is VRABEL positioning himself as the architect of a new era, or merely voicing frustrations shared behind closed doors? The lack of clarification has only fueled the rumor mill, with whispers suggesting internal disagreements about the team's direction. For now, the organization remains silent, offering no official response to the growing noise. But one thing is certain. A single sentence has managed to shake the foundations of one of football's most storied dynasties, leaving many to wonder whether this is the beginning of a quiet revolution in New England. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our New England Patriots, be sure to subscribe to Patriots Hub and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.